Hello everybody. Today is the second meeting, and last meeting we have been talking about Breatharianism. This talk you can find on YouTube. You can hear it once again. And at the end of this talk we decided that today the topic should be immortality. And it came to be that right now around Olga, here with Olga, is a group of people who came from different countries to learn about the system of immortality. And she hopes that they will also take part in this talk. Maybe they will also have questions, but these people have already a certain experience, and maybe you will have questions to these people, to these pupils of Olga. And this way we can have a really interesting conversation. Before Olga says something, she wants to ask you something. It is directed not only to the people, to you, but also to the people who are present here in the room with us. The topic immortality, how easy does it fit in your mind? Do you understand that or believe that immortality is really possible, accessible for you?
In my personal opinion, I really believe that it's possible to be immortal with some techniques. That's why I'm here, so I believe that Olga will give me a proper method to reach immortality in my life. So yeah, I'm really looking forward.
And now she asks the group, why do you think it is possible? And one person said because there are historical evidences in different religions. You said you need to put certain effort in it. What do you mean? His answer is, first of all, I need to get some knowledge and then I have to work with it. That's what Olga would like to talk about today. It is transference. Olga asks another pupil. The other person said she believes in it indeed because she once was ill, but through practice of concentration she cured herself. Olga is drinking water right now and she is planning on going dry. But she does not know when it will happen. She is not making any plans. She had 3 times a period only on water, but between these periods Olga allows her to drink juice or sometimes, so between these big periods when she is only on water, she allows herself to drink juice or coconut water. She needs these periods when she is drinking juice or coconut water in order to slow down the process of transformation. Olga didn't do the 21-day process, she has her own method, and she understands the mechanisms of transitioning to Breatharianism. They are quite easy. It is in the first place the elimination of parasites. Secondly, elimination of fungi. It is the main reason why people are forced to return to food or lose weight or feel discomfortable. Elimination of the toxification. This is what concerns the physical plan. But we also have the psychological and energetical plan. And if a person has in one of these areas a certain disbalance, then of course for the person it is quite hard to transit. But a big part of this has the society which is declining this possibility. And now a very slow input of this information happens. Since we don't have a united understanding, people give only their point of view, their experience. They teach only their experience. For example, in the beginning, most of the people made the transition into a religious process. And many people made a bad experience because they counted on the religious aspects, on the religious topic. And last time Olga talked about her history on the last talk. So now she will shortly repeat herself. The first time Olga encountered Breatharianism in 2011, and the transition happened immediately, during one day. But her relatives were against it, so under their pressure Olga, after a few months, she had to return to food. In 2011, after this experience, she started to develop this method As she was developing the method, she wasn't eating for half a year. Then she had 4 months dry without water. Then she moved to another place, and she needed long time to get used to this because she moved from the forest into Moscow and came into completely different situations. Breatharianism is extremely increasing the sensitivity, and half a year Olga couldn't sleep at all. It is because she needed to get used to this new situation, life. And in order to reduce the sensitivity, she started to drink periodically juice. And after some time, after she got used to this, she stopped drinking juice again and was half a year only on water. Then again it was possible for her to return to her techniques, to her work which she wanted to do, what was actually the cause for breatharianism to happen. These are the practices of realization of immortality. And these practices have several directions, because in order to realize this, we need to make transformation happen in different areas of our life. And in the first place, it is enlightenment, because immortality is connected with the direction of your attention. Where you direct your attention to, there the materialization will happen. And in the East, enlightened people are called twice born, because it is the first real form of immortality. And the second form of immortality is connected with traditions, techniques of realization of the illusory body. The third form is the physical immortality, and the fourth form is realization of the rainbow body. And after enlightenment, we really need breatharianism, because these are simply different kind of energy. And when you consume something, you take a certain kind of vibration into you. Pay attention. Today in our world there are no immortal breatharians. The known breatharian, without matter if they are drinking water or not, they still age. For example, Prahlad, who is said to be over 70 years in the dry regime, he doesn't look young. The process of aging is maybe slowly, but still present. From this point of view, breatharianism gives the possibility of longevity, slowing down the process of aging and aciding of the body, so the acid of the body stops the process of aciding. In Europe right now, the idea is widely spread that a breatharian can eat a few times a week. But this is not breatharianism, this is, and I don't know how to call it in English, this is a form of little eating. So our body is used to eat little. Eat once in a week or in a month. You can train your body to do this. The body will get used to it. But this has no connection with spiritual bodies. Breatharianism for Olga has to do with touching her natural, original being. And actually breatharianism is one helping tool. And breatharianism, as for today, the interest for breatharianism is caused by very different goals. Olga gets a lot of letters from people who are interested in breatharianism. And they write, I would be happy to make the transition. And Olga asks, what motivation is moving you? And she's sorry about the answer, but people say it is very economical. So I will be able to save money. She understands that this can be a start-up motivation for the person, but later on, as the person will encounter the results, it will be very frightening. Because when a person is moved by spiritual goals, then the person will deal with the obstacles which occur as steps which he has to solve in order to grow on the spiritual path. Even more people are supporting this idea that you can eat little and be breatharian, and they think it's safe. They have the idea that this way they will not oppose society and their relatives. But she has to say that this has very little to do with Breatharianism.
Это достижение?
But still, it is a very good achievement because a person will cleanse himself and it will be easier. And secondly, he really will not have conflicts with society. And the less human eats, the more use for the nature there is. Olga can tell a lot about Breatharianism, what usually people do not say openly, because then this will be not financial lucrative. For example, the belief that when you make the transition, that this will be the cure for every illness. This is not always like this. Sometimes it's not even near to it. For example, she knows a woman, she isn't using anything but water for 2 years. And she has cancer of the chin, in the jaw, in the jaw. And given the fact that cancer does not spread, it still does not go away. And in this ways, Breatharianism really helped her because it stopped cancer from spreading. She loves and is very close to Victor Truviano. And the fact that she was 4 months in the dry regime, this allowed Olga to understand certain processes. And they have been talking with Victor together about it. And Victor has experience for 10 years, and it's of course Olga does not have that kind of experience. But in any way, they understood each other very good. For example, there is no guarantee that in the dry regime any kind of infection will go. And the explanation is that if a person is in the dry regime, logically he has enough water to live sufficiently. And when a person is on dry fasting, then the cells feel thirsty, feel the need. And they take water from any pathogenic flora. Because of that, the pathogenic flora dies. And when the person goes to dry breatharianism, then he has no desire on the level of the cells. The cells have enough water. And logically at the same time, the bacteria, fungi, pathogenic flora has also enough water. And examples of that kind are plenty. Olga found in education books of scholar written in them where the body is taking amino acids from, where the body is taking the water from on the dry regime. This is very physiological. The third sphere that needs to be transformed is breathing, because physical breathing, which we are used to, is killing our body. We live in aggressive circumstances. And so, to say it softly, our biological existence slowly being eliminated. But in difference to animals, we have a choice, because animals live instinctively and are breathing instinctively. So they don't have a choice to change their way of breathing. But we do. That's why we have the choice. This is a very concrete, a very visible process. For example, right now around Olga there are people, and they came just today and they are still breathing like normal people. But in 10 days their way of breathing will change completely. And the idea or the way of the stop of breathing, of the physical breathing, will be very logical and accessible for them. But that's not the goal right now, to stop their physical breath in 10 days. Because the goal is more of a global scale. It is to waken up the mechanisms of transformation. And at the same time, their physical breath will be so soft that it will be not visible. But this should be a separated part of talk. The next sphere of our life is sexual energy. And despite the fact if the person is sexual active or not, the sexual energy is the moving energy throughout our body and is the energy giving force. And if a person cannot transform the sexual energy, it simply will be lost. But if a person is obeying celibacy, then he simply oppresses the sexual energy. This way, transformation, the process of transformation does not stop either. That's a topic that Olga would like to open and to present. The questions now will be answered, and Olga would like to return to the topic of immortality if you are interested. Immortality does not necessarily come from Breatharianism. In different Tibetan schools, school of Nyingma, Spa, school of Sakyapa, they are not using breatharianism. They are not even vegetarian. Olga is simply saying that breatharianism is a big help. But in any way, in order to survive on breatharianism, you need to try it. And Olga was very pleased to read that believes in immortality because it is a product of immortality, of consciousness. And Olga agrees on this 100%. If you mean that if it is possible to clean the food from pollution, then that's where the prayers before eating are directed to. But she was never interested in this direction. That's why she has never done something like this and probably will never do so. It is very individual. And Olga's webinar on the transition method of transitioning takes 5 hours. And she's telling that it concerns the situation, what effect a certain product will take on the body. For example, the widely spread phenomenon of orange juice. In one situation, it can heal a person from arthritis. And in another situation, the person can cause harm to himself. Maybe an infection on joints will appear. So you need to understand in what situation what you need to do. Therefore, I don't give a random general recommendation. And you need to understand that there are certain steps of the transitioning. Because many teachers do not understand these steps. It seems to people like one morning you wake up and you became suddenly breatharian. Even if the transition took place during 3 days. This person still took these certain steps, but simply in a very short time. And if you jump over one step, afterwards you still will have to come back to this. And this will be more painful. That's why it's rather better to do it balanced and to watch every step. Basically, here are the obstacles hidden why people cannot transit. For example, let's try and then look what happens. But when you know the first, the second and the next steps, you can plan your action according to them and understand what you need and what is necessary to do more. Please tell us, how long are you in the dry regime?
Yeah, so basically I've been like for a month, I've been doing like a very strict fast. It's like very little food. But what I said also applies to this, that I haven't really been thirsty for a month. And just like yesterday I did 2 days, just completely nothing. But in general, I just don't feel like I'm thirsty. I would rather eat. I mean, I don't do that either. But like, basically, yeah, for a month, like since the 1st of December.
In this case, she's talking about people who are making the transition and not using water. And then the persons go to the dry regime. On our site we will have the description of the processes. I will put online a few calls when people are speaking with Olga. But concerning your example, Olga wants to say that you ignited the inner fire. We have 2 processes which are very, very natural to us. And basically the method of transitioning by Olga is built on them. It is burning and leaching or washing out. And many people have too much what is called the yin energy. This is female energy which works with washing out, with leaching, and it helps to cool down the body. But it is opposite to the fire. And people have fire channels, and they are helping to burn pollution, but they are not supporting leaching. And when a person is in yin-based processes, it is very complicated to work with dry days. But if a person has a lot of fire, it is hard for him or her to work with water. For example, Victor has troubles to wash himself. In Russian, the woman Zinaida Baranova has also troubles. She is for 12 years now on Breatharianism, dry mode Breatharianism. It is only a question of resonance. And if you ignited the fire, then yes, everything that you ate will burn. Don't think that you need only one of it. The sign of health is a balance between yin and yang based processes. And the Eastern medicine takes a look exactly at this matter in order to solve the illness. For example, most of the illnesses have a yin-based character, but such diseases as tuberculosis, malaria, fever, padagra, gout, these are illnesses from which have hot nature. It's not only what Olga says, also it is what medicines in Tibetan culture are telling. But to talk about the processes of Lucian is too early. The time is not. The span is short. But if this goes on, you will not have problems to go away from food. 20 years ago, when Jasmuhin offered her 21-day process, a few cases of death actually happened. As you may know, there were international cases taken to court, but since Jasmuhin didn't tell the people to fast for 21 days, because people were working with their books on their own, there were nothing that could be against her. Afterwards, she tried to make the process herself on video, and it didn't work out. And after this, Jasmuhin said that the 21-day process is too dangerous, and right now she recommends 8 days on water, and afterwards drink juices. She doesn't know your instructor, and she doesn't know your complete history of the process, but she can definitely say that there are a lot of people who experience this same situation. These are people who went through different 10 days or 21 days processes, and 99% of these people experience exactly this situation. It is only on videos that everybody is smiling and putting thumbs up. In reality, it is 1 of 1,000. You need help. And in order to give recommendation, both of you need to talk more. And Olga understands how serious this situation is, because a person cannot go forward and cannot go backward. Is stuck between 2 spaces. This is very painful. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. Please. So this idea of not breathing physically is kind of brand new to me. Mm-hmm. So can she just a little talk about it? What's the purpose with this, and what's the end goal, and why is it important at all?
Yes, thank you. You give the step for Olga to continue with her talk on immortality. She said already that she will put her concept or the general concept on her site. It still lacks in time. We are doing it right now, but the translation, it needs time.
Но основную информацию вы сможете там прочитать.
But the main information will be there. So what's the general idea? In the last talk, Olga said that a very important situation happened with her. In search of enlightenment, she was experimenting a lot with herself. And one day her experiments led to the dissolution of her body into light. She has lots of examples when her body changed the shape, the form. But Olga wasn't paying much attention to this because she wasn't interested in supernatural abilities. But when the dissolution started to happen, that's the very moment when Olga gained the knowledge, when her consciousness gained the knowledge which she is sharing now. And since it became obvious to her, she didn't need to invent something to make a new paradigm, but she will start with a general point of view so we understand where we are going. What we call consciousness, God, absolute, nirvana, vacuum, These are flowing processes, flowing in each other. The existence and the appearance of everything that exists out of nothing. So it is flowing from one condition into another. So we can say that nothing is a state of calmness. And existence is being in an active mode. To put it simply and clear, it is the step from the potential energy to kinetic. And when consciousness became active,
Первичный свет.
primary luminosity is created. Consciousness, it is the highest form of vibration. Or you can also say the finest matter. And the yin and yang based streams which Olga has talked about. These are processes which happen in the consciousness and which make the creative power present, existing. The creative power is presenting itself in consciousness as what is. This way, universes of different densities come to be. And what we call soul or spirit is reflected in these universes. First of the body of light is created, and this is the prototype for everything. So at this level there are no forms. At this level there is no identification. The being of the body of light does not separate itself from consciousness. You need to say that in order for creation to happen, consciousness needs to do, so to say, a defect or a destruction. Otherwise, everything will stay identical. If we take two similar, exactly alike objects, and they are 100% the same, then here is no creation and no difference. So if the consciousness does not carry any kind of destruction into its creation, then it's pure consciousness. But as soon as we imply destruction, logically creation appears as well. The first plan is body of light, and it is just a little bit different to vibration of consciousness. But in our understanding, it is really some difference that we don't need to take into account. Afterwards, bodhisattvic worlds are created, the matter gets dense even more, and yes, vibration is lower, and beings appear which we call gods. Body of light or the rainbow body. It is complete freedom out of time, space or form. Beings from this plane can make themselves present anytime, anywhere, in any form. Beings from the bodhisattvic world, gods, these are beings whom we can interconnect by having very pure consciousness. And they have a very high level of consciousness. But this still is space without personality. Then vibration is lowered even more, and karmic worlds are created. They are also without personality, but they have included in themselves forms. And as vibration is lowered even more, mental planes are created. Then the idea of personification is created. Paradigm is created. Vibration gets lower, and then astral planes, worlds are created. Emotional body is created. The energy is lowered again. Then we are at the etheric level. We have the etheric body. Then the prototype of physiology starts to show itself. All the physiological processes that are happening within our body start in the etheric body. So by destruction of the etheric body, the physical body starts to die, to dissolve. Then the vibration gets lower, and then the physical body is created. And if we go even lower, then we will find the health plans. There is a world of the hungry ghosts, and there are many different health plans below this. But we are lucky that we can stay at this physical plane. Given the fact that the physical body is light, because there is simply nothing else what everything is built of. Everything is consciousness. So what we call ourselves, this light, is going through a lot of destructions, degradations. But as Olga said, it is a necessary process in order to create different densities. And it happens that what we call soul, it is the conglomerate of the etheric, astral and the physical body. And after the death of the physical body, after a certain time, these bodies dissolve as well. What we call soul is a temporary phenomenon. If we do not achieve enlightenment, it is a total death. That's why immortality is so important, because there is nothing that reincarnates. There are rules of karma, but these processes also have no personality. And for realization of body of light, for realization of the immortal physical body, it is one and the same process. We need to rebuild resonance. And many spiritual schools are talking about this. It's not a secret. And they tell to people, you need to retune your vibration, and then everything will be restored. And people think, okay, I understand. Now I will reprogram myself. But actually this becomes simply a fantasy. Because if you can reprogram yourself, you can levitate, go through walls, use any other supernatural ability. And by the way, these supernatural abilities are part of exercises in these Tibetan schools. So pupils there have to show that they are capable of changing their size, their weight. So this is not an exaggeration. But as Olga said, people simply don't have this strong training of concentration. And then people are offered different techniques. Basically, it is pranayama. There are not many types of pranayama. Sadly, the one that is mostly spread right now is also not correctly transferred. Olga really can make the suggestion that it is done on purpose. But let's come back to the process. So if on the level of consciousness, yin and yang based processes are creating our body, and on the psychological plan they show themselves as increasing or decreasing of the level of consciousness. In the energetical plan, these streams show themselves as the level of energy. And in our case, on the physical plan, these streams show themselves as breathing. Olga has a question for you. What do you think, why does a person eats food, sleeps and breathes and drinks water?
This is my kind of new experience or new conclusion on this. Mm-hmm. That if you're educated all your life that you need food to get energy, then you're so into believing that you will just do that. And I have now a different experience when I actually just have energy. Mm-hmm. So now I started to believe in something else. So I guess it's, but of course it's just so much into our belief system, and this is, I'm just talking about my personal experience now, this is so much into our belief system that, of course, like, you wouldn't even question if somebody asked you, or so you ask somebody, they wouldn't even question, of course you need water, of course you need sleep. Actually, I don't know about sleep, because my sleep has not necessarily decreased, or the need of sleep, but on the food and on the water, that's just my personal reality already. And I could say I started to see the difference. I started to see... Yeah, so basically, you know, this is a new experience for me. It's very exciting. It's very surprising about food and water. But of course, breathing now and sleeping, like maybe even lack of sleep, just going without sleep, is completely unreal. But now I already learned that I have to be open for surprises.
Okay. Yes, she is happy that the understanding matches. She also has a point of view that everything that presents itself is the result of our belief. Yes, the point here is that if an ordinary person stops to eat, he or she really will die. And there's a high possibility that if the person says and believes in that he or she will not die, this also can happen. Okay, so we have still the inertia if we stop eating suddenly. So our system right now has several mechanisms of gaining energy. So we are used to get energy from food, from air, or rather oxygen, and from water, and during sleep. This is a kind of low energy, and it is really not what resonates with our true nature. Since we have a certain kind of language barrier, here we put simply an example. When humanity was on a certain level of evolution, the humanity invented locomotive. And at this point, these constructions were slow and not made for a long life. This is what's happening with our body when we take food and are breathing with oxygen. And the more pollution we have, and this is happening naturally by simply growing up in this society. And the more time passes by, the deeper we go into this pollution, and the deeper the addiction, the greater the addiction becomes. And as for today, we have electrical trains. Of course, this is a completely different type of using energy, and probably in the near future even further developed mechanisms will appear, and this will be even more progressive. So what we call human breathing and what we are used to, this is a certain step of disbalance and illness in the body. This is showing you how much the separation, how big the separation to our other bodies is. And the process of immortality is the process of resonance. So when we eliminate the bigger obstacles, so the food or limitation of thinking and the focus on oxygen, we go on to the levels of our energetic level. And we discover that our etheric body has its own type of breathing, and it is breathing very actively. And then we connect our physical breathing with the etheric breathing. This process is actually quite easy. You simply need to know where you have to put your attention to. Same happens with us, what happens with steel if you put it on a magnet. After 3 days, your matter will rebuild itself. And this piece of steel will gain condition possibility as a magnet. Same process happens with us. When you start to resonate with the etheric breathing, your body starts to obtain conditions of this etheric plane. And same way you cannot be pregnant just a little bit, just as you cannot be breatharian when you eat. Same is here. The way we are used to breathe, we cannot obtain energetic breathing. So we need to reconstruct ourselves. Olga was exactly talking exactly about this, about the change of the way we are breathing. And in the initial stage, it is very clearly visible. Olga's pupils obtain these possibilities of breathing without movement of stomach, and this is, as I said, visible. Without movement of stomach or the chest. In these conditions they can make physical exercises, even big physical exercises, and at the same time breathing will not deepen. Same happens now at the night. Breathing is not going deeper. Of course, at this moment, in the point of our view, comes not only this three-dimensional world that we perceive. Naturally, higher dimensions or more dimensional visions start to include themselves. When this process become clear, same way we go on to the breathing with the astral body. And logically, the transformational processes increase. Next, we go to the mental plane. And the next step is the transference of the realization of body of light. When we go behind our personal vision, our vision of forms, we need to understand, to perceive or to touch the primary light. Since this is a form of vibration of a very high frequency, even if you explain it very carefully where you need to put your attention, it's still hard. And this can be shown, this can be transferred. And since these processes already took place in Olga's body, rather than they took place, she become conscious about them. She knows where to point attention, and she is realizing these energies in her body. By showing it on herself, people understand where they need to put their attention at. You start to feel it in your own body. And later, by doing exercises alone, you know where to put your attention at. And then breathing is stopping naturally. Because breathing is a possibility of sustaining energetical process, meanwhile destruction is happening. But when destruction is eliminated, is not taking place anymore, then there is no holding back anymore. Same way you don't need to eat anymore on breatharianism. Do you have any other questions?
So if somebody wants to practice this, what's the next step?
You need to learn to work with your sexual energy. And Olga was talking about this today. The first step is enlightenment. If this doesn't take place, then your attention will simply go into different directions. Secondly, get clear about your food, because it is very heavening factor. Thirdly, to normalize breathing. And in the last step, to point the sexual energy in the right direction, so there is no disbalance. What did interest you in this topic in the first place, and maybe you have some experience?
Yes. I first will introduce me. I'm Jack Peters. I'm from Holland, and I met Jasmine 20 years ago. After that, I didn't eat for a week spontaneously, but I had a lot of detoxification problems. I was very sick after that. And later on, I did a 100-day juice fast, yes. And that also spontaneous. After that, I had a week with Akai. I had a dry fast for 4 days. And after that was for 3 years ago. Then I repeatedly did a dry fast. But at this moment, I have a new job as a teacher in economics, and it's not stress, but I noticed when I have stress, I start eating, and I start eating a lot of craving. And maybe you have a tip for the cravings. I heard already a lot. I didn't understand everything. And I don't have a really exact question, but I've already got a lot of nice tips from you, especially about the dry fast and the detoxification on a cellular level. And I'm just really interested. So I don't have a specific question, but it's very interesting for me. Also the immortality, especially the immortality. So, and maybe, the only question I have is a practical question. What can you do against the cravings, and how do you cope with the stress and not eating? Because if I don't eat much, my body gets very cold, but I already heard some tips about that too.
Do I understand correctly that as for right now you are not eating a lot? Yes, sadly it is the same problem as Adi has. And as we had the break right now, we have been talking about this matter with the people here. As for the moment, we will now put it in this term market. As for right now, what is going on the market of breatharianism, it is like starting the work from the end. Then we encounter the most widely spread, the most common mistakes. In the first place, it is food psychosis. Secondly, it is the need for different vitamins and amino acids. Then weight dropping. Then skin problems with teeth, hairs and nails. And people encounter very critical moments. This person cannot not eat, but the body did rebuild itself in a certain way, and it cannot eat. Logically, it is affecting the nervous system and the physical plane. Here's one example. There is a certain parasite who is leaving eggs in mouse, but in the adult period of its lifetime, it is developing in the body of a cat. By instinct, the mouse is fearing the cat. Even by the slightest smell of a cat, the mouse is going away. But when a mouse is infected by this parasite, the parasite starts to control the mouse in such a way that it seeks the contact with a cat. Olga personally was observing once such a picture. When she was on a retreat, lived in a forest. Her cat was sitting. Mouse ran out and simply laid down before the in front of the cat. But the cat had a high level of laziness at this moment, and for its own luck and fortune, it didn't eat the mouse. And basically, same thing is going on in your body now.
Okay, I understand. I only did a few dry fasts, so I'm not an expert in it. And I notice I feel much clearer after.
So it is not so drastically, right? But it is still food psychosis, so craving.
Yes, but I have that in combination with stress. I think it has to do with my emotional feelings, and I start craving. But I got a lot of tips of you already, how to act, and it's very inspiring, this discussion.
This still will be helpful. And Olga recently watched a show on television, and there was a doctor from medicine, and he said that there are more fungi in the human body than there are cells. And it is not enough simply to get rid of toxins. So you need to deal with fungi. Every step of transitioning you need to have to understand. We have to understand what problem we encounter. So is it a problem connected to toxins, or a problem connected with worms, parasites? Or this problem may be connected to fungus, or maybe even with energetical parasites, because this is very real, and this demands attention as well. By solving this problem, we will not encounter obstacles. Through Olga's lessons, several thousand people went through. There are statistics and a lot of examples. And here's one example. This is the last one. It happened recently. We have been doing exercises in the sea. People started to transit to Breatharianism in a very short period. And everything went good and smoothly. And then the whole group went deaf. And infection in the ears happened to nearly everyone. What do you think? What is it connected to?
Maybe the big detoxification?
Of course, detoxification. But you could see it very clearly. They needed to go to the hospital, and out of their ears were taken out very big blockages. Some people needed to go through it even twice. So people start with all these ideas about the transition during 10 days or 21 days. But they have problems, even these simple problems. And then you need to cure them. And in the most cases, doctors are given antibiotics. And after antibiotics, the biorhythms in the body are very much disturbed. And it is very hard to go on with transitioning. And what Olga is talking about for a long time is that people are mystifying the process of Breatharianism and are caged up in physical traps. Olga has a dog, and this dog is liquidarian from birth. This is a big and strong Labrador. And when this dog goes out for a walk with other dogs, then you can see how much stronger this dog is compared to the other. There was a period when she was drinking only coconut water for 4 months. At the same time, she didn't lose weight and was feeling good. And this dog was raised by her method of transitioning, so it wasn't an idea about let's try this. Let's simply try not to feed the dog. This way, this dog simply wouldn't grow. She wants to present this dog and to show that a dog can live only on coconut water. Here are not any mystical processes working. Olga wanted to get proof for this. Last time Olga told the example when a guy called her and told her about a method for transitioning via praying. And it ended up that after half a year of praying, he lost a lot of weight. And basically the same goes for meditation and breathing with love. Very nice and beautiful ideas, but practically it's not working. Other mechanisms will function. We think that we are controlling with our consciousness, but our consciousness can be controlled by many different moments. One of these things that are controlling us is fungus. If you have any desire for something, this desire may be caused by a parasite, but you think it's your desire. So, an example, a woman came to Olga and said, I feel very good when I'm not eating and I am in the state of breatharianism, but she always has food psychosis connected with honey cake. And it is logically that for her body, for her psyche, this cake is not needed. It's not necessary, and it is not her own wish. But she goes and buys this cake because she simply cannot hold her back.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, that's very clear. I have the same.
And in her case, this is because of the fungus in her body. And in this example, this woman had a history with honey cake, which started in her childhood, so she needed to solve this, to go through this. And the method by Olga is working on these 3 directions: psychological techniques, energetical, and physiological, without meditation or visualization. Because Olga thinks that visualization is leading the person away. That's why this method Olga can offer it to a scientific place, and speaking not from the position of mystic believing, but from the position of physiology.
I've been very interested in what Olga was talking about, the enlightenment and this energetic shift, because I think that's where lies the change. And I think if we can make our conscious more subtle, well, then the other transitions would happen. Is it right?
Olga says that these moments are equal, so the energetical, physical and psychological, they are equal. But she is strictly against fantasies. So if you are told to breathe with love, these are simply imaginations. So simply said, they offer you to express good feelings, to find good feelings in yourself, and then simply to live to positive feelings, and then simply to live with it. But if you have emotional disbalance, it is quite hard to create positive emotions. Positive emotions are not the cause of breatharianism, they are the result. Positive emotions are the result of balance of the cells, of vibrations of balanced cells. It is the opposite happening. First you find balance and then you start to feel it. You and Olga just now said the sentence energetical exercises, but you may have different ideas than Olga. So if we understand correctly, the question can be put like, can the house being built without a foundation? And Olga says, yes, it can. But the result of this building, you also can say how it will be.
Yes, that means that the three stages, I mean, the physical, the emotional, and energetic, they have to be faced all together with different approaches or methods.
Yes, each aspect has its own way of approaching it. Olga talks about it in the lectures and shows it, and yes. And because Olga is not basing her method on mystical things, she can give a technology in the form of a webinar. And this will be a step-by-step system. That's why she's saying that after every step you will know what to do next and what you next to do after the next.
Yes, hello again. My main question would be, assuming we're going to do the Olga system at some point in the future, what should we be doing now to prepare?
There are no preparations because the method, the lecture that she gives contains all of it, contains preparation and contains information and the way, because if you do something in advance, this may cause something in one place and then in another place, and then it turns out that Olga has first of all to work with this moment. So something can happen that will bring disbalance. But that's not what the main thing is about. The main thing is that after people go through the lecture, we still stay in contact in social, in the closed community, for example. And logically, if you go through some steps, you will find your personal reactions on this. And your own personal questions will appear. Then we help you. We have a very interesting situation in the Russian community. When this community was just created, there were a lot of questions, many questions, and everybody thought that these questions were his or her own questions were very individual, personal. But after 500 or 1,000 people gathered in the group, people started to understand that the questions repeat themselves and that all the answers can be found in the archives of the community. And when Olga adds people to the community, she recommends to read all the archive. And not only then they gain answers for the current moment, they also understand what comes next and how they can arrange themselves according to it.
All that valuable information in the forum, I won't be able to understand it due to it being in Russian.
No, not like so. Yes, not in not in the Russian community, but that's what we are working on. My main job is to create a community in English language, and we are creating it right now. So we have created it, and there are people, but it's still just a few. So. Yes, so we are doing it exactly right now. We can promise you, the Russians will have the same questions and the same physiology as you have.
Is there anything that we should, so not things that we should do to prepare, but things that we should stop doing? Because I've basically been doing yoga practices, this Maha Yoga, Pranayama and things like this that I've heard you speak against as being not ideal for the body.
Please watch the introductory lecture on my Facebook. And for example, when people come to the webinar, then the first question is, what are you doing right now? What is your regime? And now you are asking her to give an advice, but she has no idea in what regime you are living now. You can be eating meat, or you are raw foodarian for a long time.
We last spoke, I was doing all fruit and fasting, and I'd gone down to 50 kilograms when we last spoke. But since then, I've been eating a lot more. I didn't want to lose any more weight. I've eaten a lot and gained several kilograms back.
Yes,
but still sticking to fruit. So my plan is to continue that and continue gaining weight unless I have better understanding. Would be to gain some more weight back first before doing this process, but try and eat as healthily as possible.
Olga can say directly that if your weight is dropping, then this is not breatharianism. Because yes, the case of breatharianism is exactly that the weight is not dropping, even growing. So there are different recommendations for a different group of people. Olga suggests for the next meeting to spend for sexual energy. So talking about breatharianism and speaking about certain moments. Also to put attention at the sexual transformation. I have an example for you. I want to give you examples every month, and this is very short. And maybe it's not, yes, they will be different, but they are all real. And it is, I have chosen it because it shows very clear that people often don't understand what they are doing, and they have a wrong idea. So Olga received a letter from somebody who attended at her webinar in 2016, and here I'm gonna read it. Olga, I have the following situation. I listened to your lecture on the method to transitioning to breatharianism in March 2016. I have not transited yet due to some circumstances. Concerts and rehearsals proved to be difficult to withstand without food. Spent a lot of energy, heart beating, fainted almost falling on the stage. Very scary. In normal circumstances, I felt quite normal. I lasted for about 20 days without food. Weight went about 7 to 8 kilograms below the norm, like that. I planned to transit in the months of January to February 2017. At that time, there are no concerts and it should be okay. First, can I talk with teachers, contacts? I don't know who he was actually meaning by teachers. Secondly, did you have any similar cases with disciples or artists who have similar experience? If yes, I would like to hear, learn and to talk with them directly. And number 3 is webinar Enlightenment technology. Do I need to listen to it? Will this help to transit to breatharianism? Olga received this letter and was very alerted and wrote to him right away, so let's meet via Skype. And they met, and I was present. And this Skype talk, I thought we are going to talk about something, some certain problems, seek solution and go very deep into the matter. But this talk lasted for like 5 minutes, not longer. Because very soon we understood, or he said himself, so it became clear that this person didn't do the method at all. After attending at the webinar, he simply started to fast, dry, so without doing the method. So here once again, it is a complete misunderstanding of what is going on and who you are talking with. Olga gives a method and he didn't do it, and then he obtained or encountered certain results. And the only answer Olga could give to this person is do the method. Because all of these problems wouldn't appear. And the second thing that I want to mention is that he also wrote, I plan to transit in the months January to February 2017. We have been talking today about the fact that our body is not only our body. So we can be controlled, or our desires can be controlled by something else. If you plan on something, then this may not happen. And who are you then going to blame? So hearing your body is something different. So it's like my mind tells me I'm ready, I'm strong, but the parasites or the fungus in you are not. So then you have a problem. Okay, Olga says thank you very much for your attention, for your time, and we hope to continue conversation next time in a month.